the BJP government as so arrogant and adamant not to retreat, not to go back, but to be on offensive to implement the national education policy. RSS as an ideology which is sectarian, divisive, communal, fascist, and RSS wants to impose a monolithic, illiberal, socio-political order on our people. All languages must be treated equally, but your national education policy doesn't talk about that. It talks about Sanskrit, it talks about Hindi. The RSS BJP combined, they want to dictate what we should eat, what shirt we should wear, what cinema we should see, which place we should go. They want to dictate. When Modi became Prime Minister, BJP government brought a legislation. Now it is there, that legislation. 10% reservation to economically weaker sections of the upper caste. How to decide? Already there is order not more than 50%. Now 50 plus 10, 60. Our Supreme Court has agreed. Tamil Nadu government do not call central government. They call it as union government. So they do not have the central authority to decide everything for the whole nation. If we could defeat British Raj. In the same way, we can fight and defeat the BJP Raj. Comrades, I am extremely happy to see that All India Students Federation, its national leadership, has taken up this initiative to organize a very meaningful convention in Chennai to discuss the challenges before the nation as well as before the students community. And it is good the minister from Maharashtra, our friend sitting here, he has come all over, traveling from Bombay. Minister from Kerala was there. 2 ministers from Tamil Nadu were there. Other educationalists are all present. The central theme of this convention is to mobilize a strong public opinion, mobilize the students of all regions, students who belong to other organizations, in order to reject the national education policy. What is this national education policy? Ministers all spoke, and the way they presented the issue, it shows how the state governments are confronting the issue. Comrades, when the national education policy, it came for debate in Parliament 2018, 2019, that period. Mr. Prakash Javadekar was the minister. On behalf of our party, I raised strong objections to the policy. I protested. Mr. Javadekar replied, it is not a final version. It is not a finalized policy. It is a draft. It is a draft. And as students, you should know, even the draft was not available in all the Indian languages. It was available in Hindi and English and one or two other languages. Again, the issue was raised. Then Mr. Javadekar had to accept the draft will be available in all languages. That was the beginning of the struggle. That was the beginning of the struggle. Despite the protests, struggles inside Parliament, outside Parliament, the BJP government was so arrogant and adamant not to retreat, not to go back, but to be on offensive to implement the national education policy. So it is BJP, RSS. It is a combine. And you can think BJP is heading the coalition government in Delhi. But BJP is nothing but a political wing of RSS. RSS as an ideology which is sectarian, divisive, communal, fascist, and RSS wants to impose a monolithic, illiberal, socio-political order on our people. This was pointed out by our minister from Maharashtra and Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So it is RSS. When I say RSS, as the General Secretary of CPI, I take pride. It was CPI which stood in the forefront of the freedom movement. The supreme sacrifices made by CPI are there in the history. Nobody can write the history of this country without telling the real story of communists. Even if you dig some soil anywhere, it can be Telangana, it can be Andhra, it can be Kerala, it can be Orissa, it can be Bengal, or it can be Punjab or Manipur, and put it in a glass of water. That water will become red and communist blood. We have made such sacrifices. We have made such sacrifices. And I am also proud to say All India Students Federation was formed in the year 1936. 1936. And All India Students Federation was in the forefront along with all other revolutionary forces in the fight against British Raj. And AISF mobilized the young people across the country in the fight against British Raj. But RSS never took part in freedom struggle. You ask anybody, you ask ABVP, you can challenge ABVP. Tell us what was the role played by RSS during freedom movement. You ask them, they will never have an answer, I am telling you. On that issue, they will all run away. Today, we have the challenge of fighting BJP, RSS combined. If AISF stood in the forefront of freedom movement and AISF could play such a historic role and save the nation, liberate the nation from the British Raj, I am confident today AISF can play the same role to liberate India from BJP, RSS combined. Comrades, what is this national education policy? You must understand 3C. 1C, One C, communalization of education. The second C, commercialization of education. The third C, centralization of education. On these issues, the ministers explained their position. What is communalization of education? Because RSS wants to impose its own agenda, propagate the Sanatan Dharma or Sanatan values in their words. That is where the question of language comes. Sanskrit comes, or Hindi comes, and Home Minister Amit Shah says 60% of India people speak Hindi. So Hindi must be the linked language, national language. And it is followed by several other BJP RSS leaders. India is a country which has very ancient, also very modern languages. Modern languages. All languages are Indian languages. I do not agree while people talk about regional language. What is regional language? Tamil, regional language. Bengali, regional language. Then Malayalam, Telugu, all regional languages. What is this meaning? India is country which has tremendous diversities. We should be proud of the diversities of our country, diverse culture, multilingual nation, India. Here all languages are equal. All languages must be treated equal. All languages are national languages. And there is the 8th schedule of the constitution. Here I do not know whether anybody from Manipur has come or not. AISF organized number of agitations in the national capital Delhi. For what? For the inclusion of Manipuri language in 8th schedule. Are you aware of this? Now there are demands. Manipuri has been included. Now there are demands. Why not Bhojpuri? Why not Maithili? There is a demand. So languages are our languages, and there should not be any discrimination against any language. There should not be any special concern for one language. All languages must be treated equally. But your national education policy doesn't talk about that. It talks about Sanskrit, it talks about Hindi. And they have a peculiar argument. Those who are born in India, they must be not only Hindus, they must be Hindiwalas. Others can choose wherever they want to go. Foreigners. So this is the mindset of BJP RSS. This is the mindset of BJP RSS. They want to communalize the Indian education. And we must fight this communalization. Our Maharashtra minister, in a very popular way, he explained. The RSS BJP government, they want to dictate what we should eat, what shirt we should wear, what cinema we should see, which place we should go. They want to dictate. The AISF should take up this issue. This dictatorship will not succeed. AISF will fight this dictatorship and give a lesson to RSS. Give a lesson to RSS. This is the communalization of education, communalization of education. The other thing I said, due to time constraint, I do not want to get into detailed arguments. That is commercialization of education. Commercialization. What is the meaning? Education is increasingly made to become private. Privatization of education. Private universities, private colleges, private institutions, even private foreign universities, they can come to India. And when Kapil Sibal was minister, now there is Ministry of Education in the central government, union government. Earlier it was Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Development. Now they have changed Ministry of Education. When Kapil Sibal was Minister for HRD, it brought a bill. That bill allows foreign universities to come and set up their branches, shops in India. Then there was a protest. I did protest on behalf of our party. I opposed that. And others also opposed. Finally, Mr. Kapil Sibal had to defer that bill. He did not push through. He withdrew, he deferred that bill. This happened in Indian Parliament. Now, in the name of digitalization, what is happening? Already there is a divide. And there is a problem. That is caste. You are meeting in Chennai. What is happening in Chennai IIT? You comrades should try to understand what is happening in Chennai IIT. Why students commit suicide? It is not only Rohit's case, Hyderabad Central University. It is happening in almost all universities, institutions, because there is no equality. Firstly, in India we do not have common school system. You understand? In India we do not have common school system. So at school level we don't have common school system. When we move up, there is privatization. Education has become a commodity. You must read what Ambedkar has said about education. And comrades, it will be eye-opening for everybody. I just read what Ambedkar has said. Education is something which ought to be brought with the reach of everyone. You get my point? With the reach of everyone. The policy, therefore, ought to be make higher education as cheap as possibly made. If all these communities are to be brought to the level of equality, then the only remedy is to adopt the principle of equality and to give favored treatment to those who are below level. This is Ambedkar. I am not referring to Constitution, what has been said in the Constitution. Ambedkar has been arguing for education should be for everybody. And today Kerala comrades are there. Kerala is considered to be the number one literate state. The literacy level, Kerala claims 100%. But how it happened, you should know. There was one Iron Kali, as Minister was telling, Mahatma Phule, Savitri Phule in Maharashtra, Vidyasagar in Bengal, Ayodhidasar in Tamil Nadu. In the same way, Ayyan Kali was there in Kerala. He was an untouchable. He fought against the establishment. He demanded only one thing. What is that, you know? He demanded the gates of schools must be open for all untouchables. This is the history of Kerala, Ayyan Kali. The same way Ambedkar fought for education to all. Education should be right for all. But now, what is happening? And our friend, Minister from Maharashtra, he raised the OBC issue. Yes, Mandal Commission made a survey across the country. Finally, Mandal Commission gave some recommendations. What Mandal Commission said, that is, OBCs constitute 54% of Indian population. But we cannot give them 54% reservation. Why, you know? There is a Supreme Court ceiling. Reservation should not exceed 50%. Already the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe put together, they have reservation up to 22.5%. So Mandal said there is reservation for SC, ST 22.5%. I cannot give beyond 50% to the OBCs because Supreme Court will strike down. So he gave 27. That is how that Mandal recommendation came up. 27%. So total 49.5% reservation. That is for SC, ST, OBC in the government jobs, in government schools, colleges, all such things. Access to education, access to employment. Then our friend also raised one issue. Why they should be called OBC? They are all backward classes. Yes, they are all backward classes. But the constitution, when it was debated, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe are backwards. Scheduled caste and scheduled tribe are backwards. But in India, it is not scheduled caste, scheduled tribe only. There are other backward classes. That is why the other backward classes, it came up. This is how the reservation, it also underlines one fact. The SC, ST, OBCs must work together, live together without any hostility, disharmony among themselves. That is an issue now in our society, Indian society. We should think over. Now, the reservation, when everything is privatized, public sector undertakings, seaports, airports, railways, all are being privatized. Then where is reservation? Where is reservation? There is no reservation in private sector. On behalf of the party, we demanded reservation in private sector. Bring a legislation to provide reservation in private sector. Government did not agree. That is why there is divide already. The divide is strengthened by national education policy. And what we witness is very sad, very, very tragic. What is that? Generation of students they are disappearing from the institutions of higher education. You go through the statistics given by the very government. What is the percentage of SC/ST in the institutions of higher education? What is the percentage of OBCs in the institutions of higher education? Why this situation emerged? It is because of the commercialization of education. Why education should be commercialized? As far as education is concerned, we had several commissions. To study the problems of education at different levels. Former President Radhakrishnan, as an educationalist, he also led a commission to study the problems of secondary education and other branches. In 1960s, Kothari Commission was formed. You know what Kothari Commission says? The opening line, you comrades should look at that report. The opening line says, the destiny of our nation is decided in classrooms. The destiny of India, destiny of our nation is decided in classrooms. How it can happen? How it will happen? Then Kothari said, the union government should provide 6% of the GDP for education. It was in 1960s. Now we are in 2022 and we should demand more for education. What is the allotment given by union government for education? This is what AISF should raise. AISF should demand before bringing all these absurd policies. Ensure adequate funds for education and institutions, whether they are higher institutions or lower, they must be in public sector, government sector. AISF should raise this issue. That is why there is divide already, and the SC, ST, OBC students are not to be seen in many institutions. They are disappearing. How can you tolerate this? How long you can tolerate this? This is time. AISF should take up the issue and fight for the rights of SC, ST, OBC students. It is a right, and I asked in Parliament and outside also. The Supreme Court has put 50% ceiling. 50% ceiling. What is the logic behind this? How can Supreme Court decide what should be the percentage of reservation? In Tamil Nadu it is 69% reservation. It is in the 9th schedule of the Constitution. In other states, it could not be done. At national level, it could not be done. I demanded that government should appeal against the Supreme Court decision. What is this? Who gave that power to Supreme Court? Maybe it is Supreme Court, the highest judicial body, but reservation is a social policy. Reservation is not poverty alleviation. Reservation is based on the social inequalities. How to provide access to education, employment to those sections who have been historically denied, discriminated. So education, this reservation is not simply a poverty alleviation program, no. Poverty, it is not so. But here again you should understand, when Modi became Prime Minister, BJP government brought a legislation. Now it is there, that legislation. 10% 10% reservation to economically weaker sections of the upper caste. How to decide? How to decide? And how Supreme Court can agree? Already there is order not more than 50%. Now 50 plus 10, 60. How Supreme Court has agreed? So these are the problems of our system, our social system. And we should be aware of these problems, and we should fight against these injustices. These are all injustice thrusted upon the marginalized sections, socially deprived sections. That is where education is not to be treated as right, and the new national education policy in fact underlines that thing. Education is not a right. If you have money, you go and study, and if you have money, you take certificate. Whether the quality education is there or not, they don't care. Anybody has money, they can go and write one exam, take a certificate. Digitalization. What is this digitalization? The digitalization in education actually destroys the school education, the college education. It is another thing. Our new generation is having access to computers, all internet, everything. They learn also. But if exams are become digital and certificates are given, then where is the quality of education? Where is the quality of education? What is being demanded now? Quality education. Quality education. This is what AISF should take up this issue. The other issue is centralization. Centralization means what? The union government thinks it is the central power, and it wants to snatch away the rights of all state governments, all states. It wants to snatch away, and states cannot demand their rights. States cannot fight for their interests. Maharashtra minister spoke, all ministers spoke. Education. Right now it is on the concurrent list. Concurrent list means state center, so-called center. They have responsibility. But the state governments are opposing national education policy. How the so-called central government can impose it? That is where it is subverting the federal system of governance. Modi may speak cooperative federalism. We must ask Ms. Modi, where is your cooperation with state governments? Mr. Modi, where is the federalism you are speaking? We must ask, if cooperative federalism in true sense is followed, this policy should not have come, because it takes away these state rights. Education is on the concurrent list. Even our student leaders, Vicky, Shubham, both were referring to Kisan agitation for 1 year, and agriculture is also on the concurrent list. Why the union government? Because that is why Tamil Nadu, a new development has taken place. Perhaps the comrades from other states may not understand. Now Tamil Nadu political parties, Tamil Nadu government do not call central government. They call it as union government, because the constitution says India, that is Bharat, union of states. union of states. So they do not have the central authority to decide everything for the whole nation. If they do it, that becomes disaster. That is what we are witnessing today. States are being undermined, their rights are being snatched, and their interests are let down. How can we tolerate all these things? After all, India is a diverse country, and we have elected state governments, parliament also, elected parliament, and parliament, Ambedkar has said, it is the supreme institution of our democracy. Parliament is the sovereign institution which should reflect the sovereign will of the people. Now the very parliament is becoming redundant. The very parliament is being sidelined, undermined, and many political theorists have written there is a new thing, development in the world, that is in some countries elected authoritarianism, elected autocracy. Modi says he has the mandate, but he has become a dictator. RSS has become a dictator. How can you tolerate this? So this is where the situation demands struggle. AISF says study and struggle. Now the situation really demands struggle and study and struggle. Otherwise, you cannot save the nation. We cannot save the nation. Constitution is undermined. Democracy is undermined. How to save India? How to save Constitution? How to save the democratic values, democratic polity of our country? This is what our ASF should address. These are the problems. So in the coming days, ASF has to play a vital role, and I am happy that ministers from Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, they all said this kind of this movement should be broad-based, united one. That's what they all underline. This initiative of AISF should become an united one and broad-based one. And it should not happen in one place or other. This kind of conventions should be organized in different parts of the country. And we should try to unite all student organizations. Here I also refer to the cooperation with the teachers' organizations. Here you find IFACTO General Secretary, Comrade Arun is sitting here. But teachers also should come on the streets. They should not leave it only for students. Whatever happens in the field of education, as though it is the problem of students, they should not remain aloof. They should not keep quiet. And students, teachers organizations must also come on the streets. There should be unity among all progressive student organizations. There should be unity between teachers organizations and students organizations. There should be united struggle at all levels. The struggle alone will save the country. Struggle alone will save our constitution. Struggle alone will save the existence of organizations like AISF. If AISF doesn't struggle, why should students come to AISF? I am asking you. ASF must be a fighting organization. ASF must be a revolutionary organization. In 1936 and since 1936, what glorious role that ASF has played. It is really glorious. You have such a legacy, glorious legacy, ASF. You are the inheritor of such a glorious legacy. You are the inheritor of Bhagat Singh and great revolutionaries of our country. And today, the nation demands the students, young people should come forward in the struggle against the right-wing reactionary forces, BJP, RSS combined. And we should defeat BJP, RSS. If we could defeat British Raj. In the same way, we can fight and defeat the BJP Raj. And elections are going to be held in several states. Gujarat election will be held. Himachal Pradesh election will be held. After a year, Orissa you will have elections, or Telangana you will have elections. And 2024 you will have parliament elections. And Modi has floated a story. You know that story? Some opposition leader met Modi and he told him, you have completed 2 terms, you are completing second term. What is there for you to achieve? What is there for you to achieve further? Then Modi says, it is not so, and 100% I must achieve my goals. So what Modi thinks, you should understand. And Modi should not be allowed to remain such an arrogant Prime Minister of this country. Arrogant, authoritarian Prime Minister. If the situation continues like that, and India will be in, what do you call, anything you can call. India, whether it will remain as one country, that is also question mark. Whether Indian people will live in peace, that is also a question mark. So it will lead to disaster. It will lead to disaster of the country. That is what Dr. Ambedkar said. When Hindutva, all concepts now people are discussing, it is not new. You should understand. When the constitution was in making, Ambedkar was given the responsibility. That is why we call him the prime architect of Indian constitution. That was the time partition of the country took place, Pakistan, India. That was the time Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated. There was tragic atmosphere in the country. But Ambedkar had to work to make the constitution. So there was pressure on Ambedkar in order to declare India as a Hindu Rashtra. Then Ambedkar said, India should never become a theocratic nation, theocratic country. If at all Hindu Rashtra becomes a reality, a fact, that will be the biggest calamity for the country. Now we are confronting such a calamity, and how to save India from such a calamity, from such a disaster. This is what the young people should think of. The organizations like ASF should think of, and ASF should carry the message to general students who do not belong this organization or that organization. And ASF should interact with other organizations also. ASF should lead the united struggle, united movement. ASF must be the real fighter, revolutionary fighter. So this convention should give you that clarity, that courage, when you go from this place to your respective states, you must go with a confidence. Our ASF has taken up a genuine issue in the interest of the country and its future. And ASF will succeed. ASF will not surrender to anybody, ABVP or any organization. ASF will never surrender. ASF will stand up and fight against all these right-wing reactionary forces. And let us see how you are going to continue this united movement. Comrades, on behalf of the Communist Party of India, I congratulate all of you. At the same time, I call upon you to move towards struggles, more struggles, unite the students, unite the student organizations, and ASF at national level should be seen as a revolutionary fighting organization which is taking up the historic role in the given situation. So, comrades, my congratulations, my revolutionary greetings once again. Thank you very much.